Hey, this is Adam with the Adam Lyons Guitar Academy, and in this video we're going to be talking about some guitar practice hacks that you can implement today that will level up your playing no matter what your skill level is. So the first hack we're going to do, this applies to any skill level, is you want to practice a few times in the day in short bursts. So instead of practicing like 3 hours right away or a half hour right away or an hour, whatever your routine is, split that up into a couple of times. So if you do 3 hours, or you're trying to get 3 hours, do a half hour here, half hour there, and that'll give you a nice break and it'll make it easier to hit the 3 hour mark. Or if you just want to get like a half hour in, do 10-minute increments, especially as a beginner. That's much more digestible, especially as your calluses are forming. So that's the first one. The second one is more of a beginner hack, but depending on your skill level and what kind of chord you're trying to play, this can still apply. So say you're trying to learn your G chord for the first time. And this is advice I give all the time. You'll see me talk about this several times. But when you start learning a chord, don't just hold the chord all day and strum for a half hour. There's a lot of people that do that kind of thing. And I won't say that it's pointless, but it'd be much better suited for you if you play the chord, take your hand off and make it again so you can reinforce the muscle memory, or practice a chord transition of some kind, maybe like G to D. That way, your hand is continuously moving and getting the feeling of what it feels like to get that chord. Because again, if you just sit and hold a chord like this all day, that won't quite do the same effect. And if you are going to hold it for a while, one thing you could do though, you could press down hard and kind of relax. That would actually be somewhat effective. Because what that's doing is that's reinforcing your muscle memory. Okay, so, again, that's for a beginner, but even if you're more advanced, say you're trying to learn some wild chord like this, I would still tell you the same thing. You would want to practice making that over and over again, especially if you've never played the chord like that before. This is a D major 7, by the way, with an F sharp in the bass. We call that first inversion. It's an F sharp, C sharp, D, and A. Those are the notes in a D major 7. Very cool chord. But anyway, same principle. So no matter what kind of chord you're trying to play, make sure you're not just sitting and holding it the whole time. Okay, the next practice hack is if you're trying to get into bar chords and you're new to them and they're really giving you a hard time, what you can do, instead of just trying to play the bar chord and be frustrated and you're probably going to get this kind of stuff, especially when you first try, just do the bar for like a couple weeks if you have to. And what I mean by that is just make the bar and just start moving it around and just reinforce that. Make sure your bar can come out clean. So start with that, and I think you'll find that to be far more effective. Okay, the next tip I have for you is if you're getting into soloing and you're starting to practice bending notes, be intentional when you bend. So in other words, be mindful if you're doing a half step bend or a whole step bend. What that means, say I'm going to bend this note right here, the 7th fret on the 3rd string. If I want it to be a half step bend, it's going to sound like that when I'm done with the bend. That's a half step bend. Now, if I want it to be a whole step bend, it's going to sound like this. So a half step's 1 fret away and a whole step's 2. So if I'm going to bend this note to sound like a whole step, I got to bend more and have to listen and be intentional. So when you bend, you really have to use your ear. It's very important. Because if, say, the chord is A minor, if I bend that like this, that's going to sound really bad in that chord. But if I bend it to the full step, that's going to sound really good on an A minor. So just be mindful of that, depending on the context. So bent notes make a huge difference in a lick compared to that second time you can hear it was a little off sounding, you know what I mean? Okay, so now the next tip I have for you is if you're getting into shredding and say you're doing something like that, that may seem like kind of impossible right now. Depending on how long you've been playing, that might seem really easy to you, depending on your level. But if that seems hard to you, what I would recommend is pick harder than you have to when you're learning that. So for example, as you're playing that, pick unnecessarily hard. And in real life, you're not actually going to pick that hard. But what that's doing is by picking that hard, when you go to pick normally, it's going to feel way faster. And much easier, I should say. It's going to feel much easier. So that's one tip for shredding. Another, of course, you hear it all the time, use a metronome, practice really slow. And then gradually increase your speed. Very much like if you're going to the gym and you're lifting, say, 20 pounds and your goal is to hit like 100. It's the same kind of principle. You just gradually increase the weight, or you gradually increase the speed in this case, because we're trying to learn how to shred. And by the way, all that lick is, that's just a major scale being played in triplets and repeating the first 3 notes again, and then the next 3 notes, and then you repeat it again as a triplet feel. So all it is, it's the G major scale I was playing, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, or 3, 5, 7, 3, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 4, 5, 7, 5, 7, 8, 5, 7, 8. That's all that is, but I'm putting a triplet feel to it. So triplet, and then I'm repeating that. So just triplet, triplet. And I'm just doing that to every string. That's all that is. It's pretty easy, slow. It gets hard when you try to play it fast. You know, And my last practice tip for you is to analyze whatever you're doing when you're learning a lick. So in the case of the G major shredding technique we were doing, you need to be aware of what key that was and what chord progression that could work on. Obviously, it would work really well in the key of G with a G chord, C, D, and an E chord, E minor to be specific. But I just play power chords there. E power chord doesn't necessarily mean it's minor, but in this context, it would technically be minor. But that lick would sound good on the in that context. That would sound really good. So say it switched to, say, A major. You would need to understand how to move that scale over to the A part of your guitar. And to keep it the same shape, one of the nice things about the guitar, all we have to do is just take it from fret 3 over to fret 5. And now it'll sound great in the context of A major, so like an A chord to a D, to an E, to an F sharp minor. Notice it's the same shape from before, so remember when it was in G, it was like, and now over here it looks the same, it's just moved over. So it's the same shape, it's just now over at the 5th fret. Or if we were doing the bending thing, like this kind of lick, as we mentioned, that sounds really good over A minor. Let's say it was in B minor. Same principle, I would just need to take this lick over to a B. This is the B minor pentatonic scale over here, and the B minor chord. So all I had to do if I needed to switch keys is just move it from here to over here. So by analyzing what you're playing and the lick that you're playing, you can use that lick again in different contexts. That way you don't get limited to just having the lick in one context for one song, etc. Okay, so I hope you found this video useful, and I'll see you in another video.